Good evening again. After all these months of anticipation, we finally made it to space camp. Woo! Here we are. I would like to start by adding my thanks to Dr. Barnhart and, of course, the U.S. Space and Rocket Center for hosting us for the past 20 years. And I want to thank in advance all of the staff here at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center for all the activities that I know they have planned for us this week. I want to thank Mayor Gilmore for facilitating all of our travel, and I know that has been somewhat a harrowing experience for some of us getting here. But we are here, and we're all very excited to be here. I want to thank CCSSO for hosting the National Teacher of the Year program, and of course all of the sponsors who make everything possible that we do together throughout the year. And I know we're all going to have a great time flashing back to our college memories, living in the dorms at the University of Alabama. Very exciting to recreate that experience for all of us. But I won't go any further before we give an enthusiastic welcome one more time to all of our international participants. Again, on behalf of all of our U.S. educators, I want to say how honored we are to share this experience with you. We can appreciate the distance that you have traveled to be here. I know we were all very, very enthralled by your presentations and the opening ceremonies. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity for us to form an international community this week. And really, wherever we come from, and whether we're here as a teacher or not, maybe we're here as a coordinator, the bottom line is this week, we're all students. We're all students again. And we're all in this new classroom. And in a way, it's reminding me of the first day of school. And I got to thinking about my first day of school each year, and I think about the words that I say to my AP chemistry students on the very first day. And after a very, very quick good morning, I asked my high school students in AP chemistry to consider the value of 5 minutes of their time. My class is 90 minutes, and I asked my students to consider how much time would be wasted if they wasted even 5 minutes a day, which doesn't seem like a big deal. And then I do a quick calculation for them. Because 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, is 25 minutes a week. And 25 minutes a week in a month that has 4 weeks is 100 minutes a month. And 100 minutes a month over the course of 9 months is 900 minutes. And 900 minutes divided by 90 minutes per class period is 10 class periods. 10 class periods. That's 2 weeks of their instruction, of their educational time that they will waste if they waste even 5 minutes a day. And as we all know, that's easy to do. It's easy to squander 5 minutes at the beginning of the period, 5 minutes at the end of the period. And I got to thinking about that because I realized, you know, here we are at space camp, and I don't want to waste even 5 minutes of that time. And I know that some of us, unfortunately, have already lost out on a little bit of time because of flight delays and travel snafus. But from here on out, I don't want to waste even 5 minutes of that time. And it is so easy to do because all of us, wherever we're coming from, we all have families at home, we all have responsibilities at work, and as we're engaged in our activities this week, it'll be very easy to wonder how many emails are piling up in our inbox. But what's important is that we stay focused on that 5 minutes. And that's something that really impacts my students when I say it to them on the first day. In fact, after I do that calculation for them, I basically say, well, now that I've had to waste time talking about the importance of not wasting time, I guess we're going to get to work. And they all just sit there. And they just stare at me. And of course they're thinking, you know, who's this psycho teacher and why didn't she even say hello to us? And then they realize, and they tell me later, they're like, wow, you know, I never thought of it that way. I never thought about how important my own time was. So I hope that this week we can just focus on being here and really grab this amazing, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that will never be recreated for us. And I know we're all really looking forward to that. And we're here this week to focus on science and technology and engineering and mathematics. And in America, we're combining that. We're calling it STEM. And it's interesting because, again, when students come into my classroom, most of them have already drawn the line. They've drawn the line. they've drawn a boundary, and they've decided either I am a scientist, I am not a scientist. I am a math person, I am not a math person. And they all have different reasons for drawing that boundary. Some students attach their own academic performance. They say, well, I get good grades in science, therefore I am a science person. Or they'll say, well, I don't get very good grades in science, but I love science, and therefore I am a science person. And it works the other way as well. Students will question their own abilities, say, well, I'm not a math person because I don't do as well as Susie does on the test. They all have the reasons for drawing that line. So I'm curious, all of us here together on this, our first day of class, on whatever criteria you would like to define it, I'd like to see by a show of hands, raise your hand if you would say, I am a science person. I am a science person. That's very interesting because we're about 50-50. Okay, so we have a lot of people here who are thinking, yeah, I'm a science person. We already heard there's a lot of physics teachers here, a lot of math teachers here, and we've already got Kristen from Connecticut over there who's going like this. Okay, Kristen from Connecticut is a physics teacher. In fact, her email address is GoPhysics. So obviously we know she's all about this stuff, but there's a lot of people here who, for whatever reason, you do not define yourselves as science people. And again, how we define ourselves is very important. I was in a workshop once doing an icebreaker activity, and I'm sure you've all done similar things, and we were asked to create a list of I ams. You know, I am a woman, I am a mother, I am a teacher, I am an athlete. You've probably done that kind of thing before. And in the course of my list, I said, I am a scientist. And when I was finished my list, a woman in my group felt compelled to comment politely, and she said, well, you're not a scientist, you're a science teacher, and that's not the same thing. To which I felt compelled to respond politely, well, actually I am a scientist. I'm a scientist by degree, but I'm also a scientist because I use the skills and habits of mind of a scientist every day, and I have been since I was a child. So for those of you who maybe didn't raise your hand as thinking you're a scientist, consider yourself as a young child. I mean, young children are natural-born scientists. We're all born with the ability to observe, to question, to explore, to build, and create. And what's great about teaching science to young kids is they don't care about being wrong, and they're not worried to take risks, and they don't care whether or not the question they're answering or they're asking is going to sound stupid. They just see science as something that's fun. And somehow this week, maybe even if we didn't raise our hand as being a scientist, we can reconnect with that childhood curiosity. Because unfortunately, I think sometimes in our schools, at least in America, we beat it out of them. You know, we beat that natural scientific curiosity right out of our kids. And this is our chance to kind of reconnect and realize, hey, wait a minute. I don't have to have a science degree. I don't have to be so good with facts and formulas, but I can problem solve, I can work in a group, I can collaborate, I can communicate, I can be creative, I can build, and I can do all the things that scientists do. And even those of us who are scientists by degree, I mean, we don't have it all figured out either. I mean, I'm a chemistry teacher, but earth-space science is not my area of expertise. So this week, I'm going to be learning right along with everybody else. And even in my area, I make my share of mistakes. In fact, I was just speaking to about 500 teacher candidates in North Carolina, and I was sharing stories from my early days of teaching. And I was sharing a story about a lab that I did in response to a student comment. And a student came up to me one day and he said, Mrs. Shearer, how come we never do anything in chemistry that smells good? How come everything we do in chemistry smells bad? And so here I was, this relatively new teacher, and obviously eager to impress. And I thought, man, I'm going to show him. I said, we are going to do a lab that smells good. So I dug deep into my files, and I brought out a lab on artificial fragrances. And for those of you who are chemistry teachers in the audience, you know that to make an artificial fragrance, you have to take two things that don't smell very good, and you have to combine them correctly, and you get something that does smell good. The lab involves things like acids and alcohols, and these are not things that smell good, but if you mix them right, they do. And it's fun because students feel like they're Harry Potter in a potions class, and they get a real kick out of it. Anyway, for whatever reason, trying to impress, I decided that I was going to have my students create about 8 different fragrances on the same day. and it was a hot June day, very similar to what we're having right now. And initially it worked really, really well, and the students combined things, and in each individual test tube we had these wonderful fragrances, banana, fruit flavored, any number of things, wintergreen. But what I underestimated, even with my chemistry degree and my experience, what I underestimated was the smell that would be created by the vapors as they filled the air and they mixed. And what happened on that hot June day is that I created such a stench in my room, and not only in my room, but a stench that permeated the entire wing of my building. And in fact, I've been told that an innocent passerby actually vomited in the stairwell because of it. And even to this day, with my Princeton degree in chemistry, as teacher of the year, I cannot live that moment down. And right after I was recognized by President Barack Obama at the White House, I came back to my own school and was eating lunch with my colleagues, and one of my buddies said, "Oh, hey, National Teacher of the Year, remember the time you created?" Yes, I remember the time. I remember the time. I can't live it down. The point is, even those of us who have science degrees, even those of us who may be considered experts in our field, we are all exploring science in the same ways, and we don't have all the answers either. So hopefully by the end of this week, we can bring everybody along so that everybody in some way connects with science in one way or another. Finally, we're all here to be students, and this week we're all going to be asked to do some interesting things, and some things that might take us out of our element. And I know this because I've actually been here before. I brought a group of deaf students here in 2003, and I served as their interpreter. And there were deaf students from Florida and Ohio, and I spent the week observing and interpreting. I was observing. I didn't actually have to participate in any of the activities. And most of it was like so much fun, but there were some things where I was sitting there thinking to myself, man, I'm glad that's them and not me. And that might happen sometimes this week. I mean, there might be activities that take us out of our element. Some people might already be thinking of the zip line and the aviation challenge. And I know I arrived late because I was stuck in Atlanta, but somebody mentioned something about climbing a 35-foot tower. And I was really excited about that aviation challenge until I realized I was going to have to climb a 35-foot tower because I'm afraid of heights. But it's a new experience. I'm a student. And in times like these, actually, I'm going to share with you some words from our state teacher of the year from New York. And that's Jeff Peniston. Jeff, where are you? I lost track of you. There's all the way in the back. And when I was walking into the White House on May 3rd, all of us as teachers of the year were getting ready to be honored by President Barack Obama. And obviously that's not an experience we have every day, so I think we were all a little bit out of our element at that time. Of course, I was getting ready to give my remarks in the Rose Garden, and Jeff walked in right beside me. And he didn't say much, but among the things he said to me was this statement. He said, "Michelle, you have everything you need to do this." And those words were very helpful to me in that moment, and those words have been very helpful to me since. Because as National Teacher of the Year, I have found myself in some interesting situations, whether it's interviewing with Fox News Network or speaking to 8,000 teachers at the NEA convention. There are times when I have found myself repeating Jeff's words in my head. You have everything you need to do this. So Jeff, if you don't mind, I'd like to borrow those words to share them with the rest of the group, especially those of you who may not feel connected to the science or may have some apprehension about some of the things we're going to do this week. We have everything we need to do this, and it's going to be an amazing experience. So, let's make the most of every minute that we have, keeping in mind the 5-minute rule and how quickly that time adds up if we don't make the most of it. And no matter what subject we teach in school, no matter what age level we teach, let's create a common identity here. We are all scientists this week. We are all scientists. And let's not worry so much about right and wrong answers, realizing that there's no test in the end, and even if there were, that's not the important part. It's the problem solving and the creativity and the collaboration and the communication. And those are all things that we can do and we have been doing from the time that we've been very young children. So, if you need to be pumped up this week, go to Kristen. She'll give you a little go physics and that'll get you in the mood. If you doubt your own abilities during any given activity, just remind yourself, I am a scientist. I was born a scientist. And when you're climbing the 35-foot tower or preparing to zip down to whatever awaits at the end, hear Jeff saying in your mind, you have everything you need to do this. It's going to be a great week. I know we're all looking forward to it. I know we've all had some very long days. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to meeting everybody throughout the course of this week. Thank you.